Hey y'all, so today we are talking about parenting and technology and the importance of putting those parental guidelines and controls in place. Listen, our kids are getting smarter faster. When it comes to our technology, they are no longer just watching what we turn on. I mean, when they were little, that's what they did. But now that they're getting older, we have older kids now. They're starting to search for things that we don't even know exist, things that they're talking about among their friend group that we may not be in agreement with. So we have to review this stuff and look at it again and say, okay, how do we lock this down even more? And also to think about age appropriateness. Okay, so today we're going to talk about this technology exposure and the conversation that parents are having to have in real time. And let me tell you, there is no one size fits all for every kid and every family, but there are some key principles that are very wise. It's not overprotection. It is actually wisdom. It's parenting wisdom. And as a marriage and family therapist, it's things that I see come across in our sessions with families, with parents and children. A lot of times parents think their kids are doing okay when honestly they're struggling. They're behind those closed doors and they're experiencing the whole world without you really even knowing what's going on. So we're going to talk about technology exposure, what it does to the child's brain. We're going to talk about how to protect them spiritually and emotionally. Y'all all know this is a faith-based channel, so we're going to talk about that too. Why setting digital boundaries is one of the most loving things that you can do as a parent. You might think that setting this boundary is withholding something from them, or they don't want to tell me anything, or they're not gonna share with me things. Let me give you a different perspective on that, okay? All right, so first thing that we're gonna talk about is number one. You might want to get out a pencil and paper just to take some notes. You don't have to, but you can. Okay, you can. First thing that we're gonna be talking about is technology is not neutral. This is not a neutral conversation. So tech companies actually design, as you probably already know, these platforms to keep our kids on them. They want to keep their attention. They want to keep them hooked. So every scroll, every sound, every color is a dopamine hit. And I'm talking about like a lot of these social media apps, but even the ones that you don't realize are also social media apps. So this is something to think about because their brains are creating learning habits long before they can actually process and reason through them. Their little brains are developing that they have this unrealistic expectation of what real life actually is. That's why boredom is not always bad. Boredom, it can create creativity. It gives them like ideas. They have space for new things to emerge without always the constant like overstimulation of dopamine. I always like to bring in the Bible, y'all. I love bringing in the Bible when it comes to anything I'm talking about. So if you're like, I'm just here for the psychological, so that's fine too. But I'm gonna bring y'all Bible. So the Bible says in Romans 12:2, do not conform to the patterns of this world, y'all, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I am what we call an integrationist. I'm going to integrate psychology and biblical principles because I believe that it just enhances the whole meaning of the world. Psychology does not contradict it. It enhances it. Two, guarding isn't controlling. So when you're guarding this thing, technology from your kids, it's not controlling, it's actually stewardship. You're stewarding this little life. You're stewarding your child well as a parent. So as parents, we're not called to control our kids. We're called to shepherd them. Right? We don't want them to be dependent upon us their whole life. We want them to learn and to grow and to develop and to become autonomous individuals with great values and morals as adults. It means that setting limits before the world does is essential. You have to set those limits now or the world will start to set them because they start to see them, oh, this is dangerous. But 20 years later, they realize how dangerous it was. And then right now, we see the dangers and we need to set the limits for ourselves. Boundaries actually create safety. Okay, child psychologists all say that when you create boundaries for your kids, it helps them feel more safe because that when they go to test that boundary, they know it's there and it actually helps them feel safe. So if you're a parent like, my kid tries me all the time, he tries all the boundaries I put, he pushes up against them, rejects them, just keep him there. Because that is him testing how safe he needs to feel. And every time he goes to test that boundary, as long as it's there, you're doing a great job. And unrestricted freedom actually creates anxiety and confusion in children. That bound, you have no idea as a parent. That's why parents can't say, I just wanted them to have everything. I say yes to everything to be their friend and for them to come to me. That is not the best way to steward your child. Because again, it creates confusion and anxiety psychologically for them. You might think you're doing something good and you might have good intentions, but it's having the opposite effect. In Proverbs 4:23, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That starts when they're children. So as you guard your heart, they see you as an example, they guard theirs, or you set that up for them. Hey, you know what? All this ain't good for your heart because something's going to flow from this. And this is the parents that are more engaged with what their child is receiving and coming into their heart and their mind. Now, will there be opportunities for their child things to come in? Absolutely. Those are opportunities for parenting and lessons to be learned. So this is not like a one size fit all, or it's going to be you're going to catch all with these principles, but you're going to mitigate, you're going to keep it down. You're going to make sure it's just not fully open to the world for all their little brains to absorb. That's a lot, right? It's a lot that's going on. So as much as you can control it, as much as you can reduce it, do that. Just don't say, well, I can't get rid of it all, so I'm not going to do it at all. Number 3, practical steps. So you have to know that setting up a Google Family Link like we just had to do, Apple Screen Time, YouTube Kids profiles, which we got rid of YouTube Kids for, that's a whole nother conversation. But use content filters for these video games, TVs, and streaming apps. Y'all, we had to do this on another level recently, and it took a lot of time. It was actually frustrating. I actually would say to some of these technology companies, can y'all just make this a little bit more easier for parents? Like, why do I sat there for like 2.5 hours with my husband the other night, and we were like, man, like, why we got to go to like all these apps and hoops just to create a safe environment for our kids to watch y'all's channels? Like, what is going on? And like every single app you got to do the same thing for. But let me tell you who is worth your children, their development, not exposing them to horrible people online. It's worth it to protect them. And right now, these online spaces in any aspect is what is one of their biggest dangers in their life. It's ridiculous. So keep the devices out of the bedrooms. That's something that we recently implemented. We do not allow iPads or cell phones. Our kids don't have cell phones. It has to be in a public space. I'm just telling you guys what we do and kind of what we recommend, just because you can see it and you can monitor it. And these little eyes, definitely as they get older, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they start to look around at different things, and they're very curious. So we gotta protect that little curiosity, and those little minds start wondering, oh, my friend talked about this, let me see if it's on YouTube. Another thing you can do is to create a tech contract that includes why these rules exist. Again, I think it should be age appropriate. Our kids are 7 and 9, so we don't have the contract necessarily, but we do have a verbal contract of why our rules exist. And you know what? I thought because they were so used to having their own like times and doing different things, I thought they would like buck up against that, but they didn't. Once I sat down and shared with them why we are doing these things, both of my kids were like, oh, okay, and they just adjusted. Like they realized that, you know, my mom and dad are trying to protect me, and this is what I need to do. And it was no big deal. I'm just saying that's what our kids did. I know some other families might have a little bit harder time with that. Some families might have the same experience, or your kid could be a little bit in between. And, you know, your kid could also be that kid that's like, yeah, no problem. And secretly in the back of their mind, they're like, well, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Regardless, set that boundary. Make sure that I always say I'm 2 steps ahead of you. Because I was like a sneaky kid. So I kind of already know what my kid's thinking. Our kids understand why we set limits, and that we're protecting their mind and not punishing their curiosity. That is what builds trust, and that is what you want to do in building your relationship with your kids. You want to build that trust with them. Like, yeah, I know you have some curiosity. I know you want to look at this stuff, but let's talk about like why we're not looking at it, right? And building that type of trust. Number 4, psychological impact of early exposure. So when children are exposed to adult themes, even by accident, y'all, their brains create this association that they can't yet process it. It can trigger a premature curiosity in that area, or even guilt, shame, and even confusion within them. These are like really big feelings that start to come up in their lives. If you can imagine a little kid having to absorb and learn the world around them, there's just so much information coming at them. We want to like try to kind of like pace the information. Everything don't have to be like, just you're gonna have to learn this anyway. Like let's pace it, okay? These little brains, they need all the help they can get. Okay, something to note, kids Kids that over consume media often show higher anxiety. There are multiple psychological articles that have come out recently on this, even from the social media platforms. It has come out about this. They show higher levels of anxiety, irritability, and even lower empathy. Okay, so this is something to keep in mind. You can go online now, do a Google research on the impacts of media, overconsumption of media on a child's brain, and you will see what I'm talking about. Well researched, and is continuing. More and more research is coming out about it. Biblically, Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is kind, of good report, think about these things. These are the things that we want to establish not only as a habit of thought for ourselves and neurological pathways around these good thoughts, but we want to teach our kids that too. Like, you don't have, like, everything that you turn on doesn't have to be bad or really like overly stimulating to grab your attention, right? We can have like calm goodness and slow amounts of dopamine, not spikes of it, right? 5, transition. Let's talk about transition. When the news feels too heavy, okay? Now, this is something that as a parent, I had to, okay, sorry. So as a parent, I know the right things everyone tells me to do, but I have to also think about the maturity of my kid. And that's just different per kid. Like, is your kid mature enough to handle the content of this news article? And if it's not, most kids aren't, by the way, definitely under the age of 10. Like, a lot of the stuff that's going on, like, talk to them about it in an age appropriate way, right? So even with the parental controls, we can't shield them from everything. This is the truth. Like, so this is not, I'm not saying, shield your child from the world around him. That's not what I'm saying. They should be living under a rock. And that's not what I'm saying. But that doesn't mean we can't shield them from some things or most things. So that's why we also need to teach them how to process like really hard truths through a faith lens. So like an example of this, when the California fires happened, my son saw it on some channel, and it was just everywhere. I'm even walking through a store and they have like a whole bunch of TVs and you see it, and he was just asking me a lot of questions about it, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna have to like talk about this, right? And so we had a conversation about it. That whole situation over there in California really bothered him. He started asking me questions about it. And I was like, okay, even though, maybe I wouldn't have shared that with him because it's definitely not local. But he's 7. I do want to start to share with him about some things that happened in the world. And it was an accident for what we saw. And, it was just really catastrophic. And so I did talk with him about it. But I do want to share with you 5 faith-centered ways to talk to your kids about the horrible things in the news. Okay, again, age appropriate, know your kid, know their maturity. So use your parental wisdom. If you don't have it, pray for it, before you expose your kids to some of these ideas. Because the truth is, digital protection and emotional discipleship, which we should be discipling our kids, they go hand in hand. As you know, the news has been exciting this year. This news has been a lot. And parenting in 2025 has to stand on guard. It has to not be in fear, but in wisdom, okay? So just some encouragement. Our job isn't to raise kids who know everything. It is to raise kids who know how to guard their heart, how to take in what they should take in, and how to put up boundaries where they need to put up boundaries, okay? To know themselves. Try to share this with a family or a friend. All of my content has something to do with faith-based, psychology, therapeutic principles. I try to deal with things that's going on in culture. So if that's something that you want interest in, follow my channel and I'll share more about this parenting and technology issue that we have going on. But the biggest thing is to know how to guard your heart, you first, and then to teach your kids and your family that as well. If you guys do it as a couple, then you have to also model that, because kids watch what you do more than they watch what you say. Okay, I hope this blessed you. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and stay tuned for more about this. But y'all, there's just so much coming after our kids when it comes to this technology. It's all over everywhere that we need to guard what they watch. Put all those parental controls in place. If it takes you 3 hours, do it. YouTube it. Google it. Figure out how to do it. Don't stop. I mean, it took us a long time, and we were shocked at how long it took us. And I think I'm a pretty technology savvy person. My husband does too, but it took us a long time to figure it out. But it is worth it. Okay? All right. Have a good one, y'all.